News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris. There's your closing bell for this Wednesday on Wall Street, which was feeling some volatility as investors struggled to gauge the scope of the latest trade tensions between the U.S. and China. And we bring you those closing numbers each day here at Bloomberg. The S&P 500 gained 27 points. NASDAQ gained 148 points. The Dow lost 17 points. The 10-year Treasury yield at 4.03% and the 2-year yield at 3.5%. Economic activity was little changed in recent weeks. Employment levels held largely stable, according to the Federal Reserve's Beige Book survey of regional business contacts. Overall, consumer spending edged lower, prices continued to rise, and several districts report input costs increased at a faster pace. The outlook for growth differed by district. The Trump administration is not allowed to fire workers during the government shutdown, at least for now. A federal judge issued an emergency order today, days after the White House said mass firings have already begun. Bloomberg's deputy bureau chief in Washington, Laura Davison, tells Bloomberg Businessweek Daily what it means.
This is just a temporary block. They are just paused, and there will be a decision to come later on the merits of the case about whether these can proceed.
The Trump administration said in a court filing it plans to fire more than 4,100 employees across 8 agencies. It's part of an effort to exert more pressure on Democratic lawmakers as the government shutdown continues. Key Supreme Court justices are expressing support for a Republican-led effort to narrow the 1965 Voting Rights Act. The justices this morning heard a rare re-argument of a redistricting case in Louisiana. Janai Nelson of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund was asked by Justice Elena Kagan what the effect would be if the court gutted the Voting Rights Act.
There is racially polarized voting. White Democrats were not voting for black candidates, whether they were Democrats or not. There's no question that race is playing an outsized role in the electoral process in Louisiana.
The court will consider whether the Constitution permits the intentional creation of majority black or Hispanic districts. The same court upheld Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act in a similar case in Alabama. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent proposed a longer pause on high U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods in return for Beijing putting off its recently announced plans to tighten limits on critical rare earths. Bessent says that after several rounds of solid trade negotiations with China, things took a turn when China's vice minister came to Washington.
Perhaps the vice minister who showed up here with very incendiary language on August 28th has gone rogue and said, quote, China will cause global chaos if the port shipping fees go through.
In a written statement for the World Bank Development Committee, Secretary Bessent says the World Bank should focus on helping poorer countries and end its support for China. Argentina's sovereign bonds jumped after Secretary Bessent outlined financial aid that would total $40 billion to Javier Milei's government. Semaphore reports that's in addition to a separate $20 billion facility that would complement a currency swap line of the same amount. And on this 15th day of the government shutdown, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries and other Democrats seized upon that. Jeffries says the White House has skewed priorities.
The Trump administration is giving $20 billion to bail out a right-wing wannabe dictator in Argentina. But Republicans are unwilling to spend a dime to provide affordable health care to working-class Americans.
House Speaker Mike Johnson has kept the House out of session since the shutdown began. Morgan Stanley is closing out big bank earnings seasons with beats across the board. Bloomberg's Scarlett Fu.
Morgan Stanley's wealth management business reporting revenue of $8.23 billion, much higher than what analysts were looking for, which was $7.78 billion. And that was an increase of about 7%. So this is a big beat here. And of course, net revenue did rise more than 13% from the same time last year.
Bloomberg's Scarlett Fu and Morgan Stanley shares gained about 5% in regular trading. trading. Bank of America came in strong as well on investment banking and net interest income. And shares of Bank of America gained about 4% in regular trading. Investors led by BlackRock's Global Infrastructure Partners agreed to buy Align Data Centers in a $40 billion deal. The buyers are purchasing the company from Macquarie Asset Management, with MGX, Microsoft, and NVIDIA investing alongside GIP. The deal is the first for the partnership. That's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris. This is Bloomberg.